Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Knitting Texan podcast. My name is Rin, also known as Knitting Texan on Ravelry, and I am coming to you from the small town in Texas where I am from and where I live with my family. It's been a while. I'm back again. The semester has started, so I'm kind of swamped, and so my projects were not that spectacular or plentiful, I guess. So I was waiting to see and play by ear to see when would be the best time to record this. So, yeah, I guess let's just hop right in. I have 3 finished objects. 2 of them won't surprise you. They're socks. So the very first pair of socks that I finished, and these socks have been worn, by the way, so they look worn. And so they're clean, but they're worn. So the very first pair of socks that I finished was a pair for my mom. And if you want to see them in mint condition before she started wearing them, they are on my project page, which I will link my Ravelry in the description box below. So this is what they look like. They don't look that bad, considering I don't think she's taken them off since I finished them, but I washed them and they're clean, and they're going back to her after this, so I think I have converted my mom to being a hand knit sock wearer. And then I gave her a couple pairs of socks that I made for me, but were too big for me. So, yeah, these are a pair of socks for my mom. They are knit out of West Yorkshire spinners in the Goldfinch colorway. Is what I had left over from a pair of socks I knit previously. And then also the heels, toes, and cuffs are knit in Yarn Bee Authentic Hand Dyed, and I think the Soot colorway. I think that's what they call it. Now, this is a big no-no, I know, that you use 100% superwash merino for heels, toes, and cuffs, but I figured my mom would be nicer to these socks. Now, of course, she has been wearing them nonstop, but it just means that I need to make her more socks, doesn't it? Which is not something I'm complaining about. I'm just saying. But I'm glad she enjoys them. But yeah, that's finished object number 1. The second one is actually a pair of socks for me. So I have very weird feet. I have like very skinny, narrow feet. So I've tried knitting myself pairs of socks before, but they've always ended up too big. So I finally bit the bullet and tried to make myself a pattern for socks for me, because I've been knitting pairs for men in my family and for my mom. And so I needed a pair of socks. I wanted a pair of socks. So this is also West Yorkshire Spinners in the Blue Lagoon colorway. And then again, 100%. This is actually Knit Picks palette for the heels, toes, and cuffs. I had a ball of blue yarn that matched it pretty well. So yeah, I know it's a big no-no, but you know, I mean, I got to use the yarn somewhere. And also, in my experience, palette does a pretty good job for socks. It does pill, and it does fuzz, which eventually turns into pilling, but I think it does a pretty good job. I mean, as long as it's like, you know, back here, it looks really great. If you get a little closer, it gets a little fuzzy, but you know, that's what happens when you wear socks. Also, on these socks, because it has been pretty cold here, it's been like in the 30s Fahrenheit, of course, I decided to take my gleaner on like the smallest smallest head I have for it, and I just kind of fluffed up the inside of it. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's kind of got like a little bit of a halo on the inside of it now. It might be easier to see it on the heel. You can see it kind of there. You can kind of see the little fuzz. And I did that because it'll make them warmer. Because I don't know if you've ever seen those traditional Swedish, I think they are, mittens where they were made out of 100% wool. And then the story is that the lady who invented them took a wool carder to them and just kind of scraped them and fluffed them up. And so they would be softer and warmer. So I tried just really lightly. It'll of course fluff up over time anyways, So I didn't do it too hard because I knew that they would fluff up. So anyways, these are, instead of 64 stitch socks, these are 56. Say that right? Instead of 64, it's 56. Because I have very small feet. Or very skinny feet. I wear women's size 8.5, but my feet are very skinny. So yeah, I really enjoyed wearing these socks. It's been very nice on considering how cold it's been. And I also, I don't think they're in here, but I got a pair of sandals. So I'm hoping that eventually when I get enough pairs of socks, I can wear these to school with my sandals. And then people can see my really crazy hand knit socks. I swear they were in here. That's why I keep on looking around. I don't see them though, so they must not be in here right now. But yeah. And I will actually link those sandals in the description box below if you want to check them out. They had like 35,000 reviews and like 4.5 stars or something like that on Amazon. And they weren't that expensive. And so I'm anxious. I've really enjoyed wearing them. I've already worn them quite a bit. So I shouldn't say I'm anxious to try them because I've already worn them. So yeah, that's finished object number 2. And I've been pretty much wearing that nonstop. I haven't really worn them to campus because I only have that one pair of socks, and I feel like if I walked on campus, wear them out pretty fast. And since it's my only pair of socks, I'm gonna wait until I have multiple pairs of socks so I can spread the wear across all of them. All right, so my last finished object is also very worn, and it's got a lot of dog hair on it. So I got like dog hair all over my mouse pad now, which is great. So it's a family dog. We have a Jack Russell, and his name is JR, or Jack Russell. And he has very short hair because he's a terrier. And so I decided to knit him a sweater because it was going to get very cold. And it only took me 2 days to knit this sweater. And again, if you want to see a picture, actually, I think I'll put like a picture like here of him wearing it, just so you can kind of see what it looks like. So I used the pattern called Cosmos Coat. I forget. It was a free pattern on Ravelry. I don't remember what the name of the designer is. It's like Lauren, I believe. That's totally a shot in the dark, so don't quote me on that. So yeah. I knit this in like 2 days, 3 days. Right before a big freeze here. So this is the sweater. He has been wearing it, so that's why it looks kind of, it doesn't actually look that bad, at least from what I can see. But if you get close, you can see like all the fuzz and all the hair. I've been pulling hair off of it, but it's still got quite a bit on there. But anyways, it fits him really well. The neckline has stretched out a little bit, but what I ended up doing is I actually modified it. I think the neckline in the pattern actually starts somewhere down here. So I modified it in the pattern because her dog, I believe, was a schnauzer of some kind. And my dog's neck is much thinner, or yeah, I guess is thinner, or I wanted it to come up on the neck further. And so I modified it to where I started with fewer stitches, and then I eventually increased out to the point where she said to start the sweater part. And then, so all you do is you knit like a circular yoke, and then you cast off a certain amount of stitches to be the armholes. You knit a row, and then you cast it back on. And then you bind off half your stitches or part of your stitches, and then you keep on knitting this little flap. Now, I didn't exactly follow the pattern past here. I was basically just trying it on my dog to see where it would fall on him. And so, yeah, he wore it during the cold weather. It's warmed up a little bit more now, so he doesn't really need to wear it. But yeah, I'm glad that this worked out. So I used 2 balls of the Yarn Bee Cozy Toes in the crisp cobalt colorway, the famous Batman colorway. And I marled them. I held them together because the pattern was, I believe, worsted weight or DK weight. I don't remember. And so I held it together to not really necessarily meet gauge, but meet gauge, if that makes sense. because I didn't do a gauge swatch. I didn't test my gauge or anything like that. So you can kind of see where I marled the different colors. But I didn't actually try to do it this way. I just kind of started with 2 balls that looked pretty similar and then held them together and did the sweater. So yeah, that is finished object number 2. And I think I used a US size 6. 5 for the ribbing and a 6 for the sweater itself, I believe. Don't quote me on that. So yeah, those are my 3 finished objects. And well, I have half finished objects. So let's do those. So my first half finished object, and we'll just do the whips with them too, is a sock. Believe it or not, no surprise. So this is the Cozy Quiet colorway by Lolo Did It, and it's her everyday sock. It's leftovers from the other Cozy Quiet socks that I finished. It was on last podcast, and so you can see it's got a black mini with it, and this is from Desert Vista Dye Works. It came with that Oktoberfest colorway that I got. It came with the black mini. This one kind of looked kind of brown. Came out kind of brown. So I used it with this. On that screen, it kind of looked purple for some reason. It's really weird. But yeah, it came out a little brown. So I decided to use it with this. As you'll see later, I may regret that decision later. But, you know, what can you do? So I just have the cuff cast on for the second sock for this guy. And so I've just been slowly working on that. But these are US size 1. And these are my men's 10.5 size. Yeah. I think that's it. US size 1, 64 stitch sock. Yeah, I think I got everything. These are both 75-25, by the way. So typical sock yarn. 75-25. All right. So the second pair of socks is actually for me, which is, you know, surprising because this is only 3rd or 4th pair of socks I've knit for myself. So that actually will fit, hopefully. So I have decided, I've seen a lot of podcasters decide to participate in the Desert Vista Dye Works sock knit along. I forget what the actual name of it is called, just because it's a really long name. It's a crazy long name. So I'm sure if you watch knitting podcasts, you've heard of it, heard people talk about it and how long the name is and how hard it is to remember. So I decided to participate this year just because I haven't participated before, and I've heard good things about it, and it would give me the chance of possibly getting a discount on Susan's shop, you know, just to be honest. And I can knit socks pretty fast, especially socks for me, because I'm used to knitting socks with 64 stitches, and I can usually knit a men's-sized pair of socks in about a week. And so I was like, okay, well, you know, it's the 3rd week in January. I could probably finish these socks before the end of January, you know. Logical thinking. So the first sock is already done. And this is the Oktoberfest Celebration colorway. This one kind of looks a little different than the skein that she originally sent me. It looks more like gingerbread to me for some reason. But I like it. It's a little crazy for my tastes. But yeah. I tried to do the 3-inch cuff, so hopefully that works. I assume I tried to make sure I had a leg on it so that it would count for the knit along. And so yeah, this is a 56 stitch sock, and it is got a very long foot. I think it's got like I don't remember exactly, but anyways, it was very fun to knit, very fast to knit. I've never really used Desert Vista Dye Works yarn before, so it's very exciting to get a chance to knit a pair of socks for me out of this colorway. I also had a really nasty hole on this side, but I kind of sewed it up, so you can't really see it. I mean, I can tell that there's something weird going on there, but when you have it on, I don't think when I have it on, I don't think you'll really be able to tell. And seeing it in the light, I can see where I grafted it. So, yeah. And the second sock is, I finished the heel flap not too long ago, actually, and I'm working on the gusset decreases. And so you can see, like, the stripes don't really, like, there's some stripes missing here, but that doesn't really bother me. I know it bothers some people, but it doesn't really bother me. And this one's even worse. Like, it's got like this dark brown, dark brown stripe in it. But you know, it works. I also, as you can tell, didn't attempt to make these guys match. I am knitting these guys only exclusively on DPNs as well. And I've really been enjoying that. You know, I said that for my bigger socks, I tend to switch to 9-inch circulars for the leg and the foot because I have to knit for miles. But for this, I can use DPNs because I don't have that big of a foot. And the stitch, I go through a round pretty fast because there are only 14 stitches on it, each needle instead of 16. So those 8 stitches does a lot. So yeah, I've really been enjoying knitting these. I think it's a really fun colorway, and I'm excited to participate in this. Now, of course, I think I'll only be able to participate in either 3 or 6 months of the knit along because I don't have that much Desert Vista Dyeworks yarn. If you know, by any chance, can you use the same colorway for multiple months? Because I will have enough of this colorway to knit it again. If not, I can only participate in 3 months because I don't have enough Desert Vista Dyeworks, and I don't really want to buy more yarn. I have a lot of yarn already, and I also received a package of yarn that I will talk about in a little bit. So I don't really want to buy more yarn because I have enough for the entire year already. So yeah, we'll see. If you know, leave a comment in the I always say that. Leave a comment down below if you know that if you can use the same color in multiple months. I'd appreciate that. So yeah, I've really been enjoying those, and those are kind of my take everywhere project right now because I'm having so much fun doing them, and they knit up super fast. Like I can knit almost a sock in 24 hours pretty much, which is really fast compared to my other socks. So that is my second whip. My third whip is a hat. It's not a sock. How about that? So a few podcasts ago, like 3 or 4, I can't remember, podcasts ago, I was knitting Musselburgh hats for my grandmother and for my sister. I am knitting the Musselburgh hat for my grandfather. Now, I don't know if he actually knows that I'm knitting it for him. I assume so because I asked my grandmother what he would want. And I was assuming that he would want a hat like my dad, but it turns out he wants a hat like my sister. So if you remember, or if you don't, no big deal. You don't have to memorize my podcast. I knit a hat for my sister out of this paratrooper colorway and a really bright neon orange. So I'm using that neon orange in a hat for my grandfather. So it's a little over halfway done because this first colorway is Merry Gentleman from Lolo did it. It's the closest I could get to the paratrooper colorway because it was a one of a kind, and she unfortunately wasn't selling it anymore. But this was as close as I could get, and I think it'll work out pretty well. It's got those kind of brown and orange speckles, which aren't really showing up on this camera, which is interesting. Because in person, you can definitely see it. Well, maybe there you can see it. But anyways, this is the Merry Gentleman colorway on the Everyday Sock, which is a 75-25 base. And then on this other side, I am using the Troll Hair, I believe is what it's called, colorway on Low Original, which is her 85-15. And I am knitting these on 2s, I think. Yes. My go-to for the Musselburgh is the adult medium on a US size 2 with fingering weight, regardless of my gauge, because that tends to fit pretty well. So yeah, I'm about 2.5, 3 inches on the orange, and I'm hoping to get this done before it warms up, but that may not be the case because it's already going back and forth. It doesn't stay cold for very long. It stays like 30 degrees for a couple days, and then it goes up into the 50s and 60s, and then back down again. So, yeah, that's it for that, guys. It's pretty straightforward. My projects are pretty straightforward right now, pretty simple, vanilla that I can just pick up and put down, just because I don't have a lot of time to knit at the moment. So, yeah. And then my last whip is, or not my last whip, my second to last whip, but biggest whip is a big one. If you will remember this guy from last podcast, I said I got 12 skeins of Burnett Color Whirl from Hobby Lobby when they were having their massive 75% off sale or something like that sale. And so I used all the yarn that I had, and the blanket was a really weird size. It was long and skinny. And so I was like, well, this is not going to work. I'm not going to spend all that money on a gigantic chunky blanket and then make something that's not usable, because that kind of sucks. Because I was looking forward to a weighted blanket, and this is a weighted blanket. This is a heavy blanket. So I crocheted all the yarn into the blanket, and I ran out of yarn, and I was like, well, shoot, I'm gonna have to like double this thing. So this thing is huge, but I'm gonna double the size of it. Because that's what you do when things are too big. You make them bigger, go bigger, go home, right? And so I doubled the amount of yarn. I ordered the yarn from Amazon, Yarnspirations, which is where it's from. Anywhere I could get the yarn in these colors. Well, actually only 2 of these colors, because the third color back here they didn't even have. Again, this thing is huge. So I'm going to be crocheting that into this guy. I can't even show you the whole thing. Those are 2 of the colors. And then this is the third guy back here. This thing is so awkward. This is the third color back here. And so this is a very big, warm blanket, and it's making me sweat. Just holding it. I got in a big box of assorted yarn. And I'm going to drop everything. So a big box of assorted yarn, as things are falling, to add on to the blanket to make it a usable size and make a mess. Because that's always fun when yarn makes a mess. So that's probably the most yarn I've gotten at once in my entire time knitting. So that's kind of fun. Super expensive. Oh my god. So, now that all the craziness is somewhat subdued. So that is my chunky blanket, and it's going to be a constant work in progress over the next. Sorry, I had to let the dog in, and then I also had to clean up my mess. Also, they're in here now, so if you hear them eating, you hear a dog eating, that's my dog. It's silly. All right, so my last work in progress is a sad story, kind of. Whoa. Sorry. It's kind of a sad story. So I started that northeasterly blanket, and I think I've decided I don't like knit blankets just because it takes forever. And I love the northeasterly pattern. I love the way it looks. I love the way other people's looks. But I started to think about how long it would take me to make a usable sized blanket, and I was like, yeah, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to really spend 3 years or 5 years plus working on a blanket when I could spend, a year making a crocheted blanket and use more yarn and make it not as, cut and dry where I have all these little pieces left over. Because that's what ended up happening, is to make the little chevron stripes the same size, I ended up cutting the yarn short, and so I ended up with smaller and smaller balls of yarn leftovers. And so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to bite the bullet and make a crocheted blanket with the yarn that I would have used for the northeasterly. So this is my northeasterly crocheted blanket, but not the northeasterly pattern. So it's only this big, and I'm not going to show you the whole thing because it's long. It continues for quite a while. That's only like a quarter of it. So what I'm doing is I'm holding 3 yarns. I'm holding a white, and then 2 colors. And so what I'm doing is as I run out of one color, I add the next color in the sequence. So what I'm doing is I'm doing blue, white, red, white, blue, and then it keeps going. And so I separate each color with 2 sides of white and then the color in the middle, if that makes sense. So it may be easier to see on the other side of this, I think. But you can see I got blue, and then I got white, and then it goes into red, and then to gray, white, and then red again. What? Blue, and then white, red. I confused myself. Like I said, it's easier to see on the other side, I think. Because again, I'm fading the colors, so no part of the blanket is the same. There you go. That's easier to see. Oh, goodness gracious. That's easier to see. So blue, gray, white, neutral, red, white, blue. And then the gray, white is further up on this row. So that's why it's red on this side. But that's what that's what it's supposed to look like. I promise. But anyways, it's a very large blanket, and I'm just slowly working on it. And I did 3 strands instead of 2, like my other blanket, because that way I could use a larger hook and not have to switch hooks between the 2 blankets. This guy gets the blue hook, and that guy gets blue hook as well, but I think it's teal, or a lighter blue. So yeah, I'm really been enjoying this. I'm just using scraps, red, white, and blue scraps that don't go in my other granny stripe blanket. And so basically what you do is you just chain as many as you want. I usually do based on length. I usually fold it out against something, maybe like a blanket you like the size of or something. And then you go through and you check that you have a multiple of 3. Usually what I do is I do it by feel, because that way I can go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you don't have to know how many stitches you have. You just have to have a multiple of 3. And then I think you crochet 2 more, and then you crochet 2 more, and then you go into the third one of your sequence of 3s. That makes sense. So it's multiple of 3 and then plus 2. That is how that works. I never remember. So yeah, this is just my scrap blanket, and it's living in this basket because it's the only thing that it fits in right now. Even though it's teeny tiny, but it takes forever to go across a row because it's huge. So yeah, I think that's all of I'm in a weird mood today. I'm sorry. I'm kind of distracted and all over the place because I think my brain is fried. Just slightly. So, that is all my works in progress. And I'm pretty sure in all of my finished objects. So now I get to go into my Happy Mail and acquisitions. So this is Happy Mail first. This is not acquisition. So you can wait a little longer if you want to. Or if you don't, that's fine too. So recently I won the year knit along from Day to Day Knits, Sarah of Day to Day Knits. And so she sent me a box of a whole bunch of stuff, and it was so much fun to open. But I'm just going to show you the yarn part. But if you want to watch everything that was in the box and also watch her podcast because she's fun, then you can, I will link her podcast in the description box below. By the way, if I forget linking anything, which is very possible, just comment down below and I can put a link in the description, and I'll tell you I put the link in the description, just so you're not in the dark when I put it in. So yeah, let me get this all situated. So she sent me a bunch of yarn, all yarn I have never used before, and one particular skein of yarn that I was super excited for, that when she showed that she was going to put it in the box, I was like, yes, I'm going to join this cow and I'm going to win this cow. Which I know sounds super competitive and weird, but trust me. And it's going to be a little weird, but I may still be weird even after I explain it, but that's okay. I'm used to it. So, anyways, let's move on. How am I going to do this? I'm just going to start with this guy. So this is one of the skeins that she sent me. It is by Isager. I believe that's how it's pronounced. And it is a green tweed yarn, and it's 100% wool. So I'm very excited to try this guy out. I believe it's just, it just says 100% wool. And I believe it's like a worsted weight. I don't know if it actually says. It looks like a worsted weight, possibly. It's 160 meters to 100 grams. Shoot. Is it a worsted weight? Or is it DK? Sport. Looks kind of DK for sport. Maybe not worsted. Maybe, because I honestly thought at first that said yards. But that doesn't make sense because it's made in Ireland. So why would they be using yards? So anyways, that's a little dark on screen to what it is. Well, actually, it's kind of close. That's kind of what it is, like right here. And I'm really excited to get to try this guy out because it doesn't feel like superwash. Like, I don't know if you can hear that, but yeah, I'm really excited to try this guy out. Also, from the same company, there's this little red guy, which is my little maroon, which is one of my favorite colors. These are actually two of my favorite colors, which is kind of Christmassy, but I'm really excited to get to try this guy out too because this is 70% wool and 30% mohair, and this is more like a lace or fingering weight. It's very tiny. By the way, this is the color, I forgot to say, this is just the color green. And this is the color wine. So if you wanted to look it up, you can. But this is only 50 grams for 200 meters, which I believe is a fingering weight. But I'm not entirely positive on that. Maybe a light fingering. No, definitely a fingering. I have this line in my finger from when I was knitting the socks, and so that's what I was using to kind of measure it. And it fits in the little hole in my finger. You see? Little channel in my finger. Hole in my finger. So yeah, I'm really excited to try these guys out. I don't know that I've ever tried tweed yarns, and I have not tried Isegger. I can hear it in my head how it's supposed to say, but it never comes out right. So if I say that wrong, I'm sorry. But yeah, I'm really excited to get to try this new yarn company out. Heard a lot of good things about it, and I don't think that these are superwash either. If you know, let me know in the comments down below as well. Then the next skein of yarn she sent me is Malabrigo in the Jupiter colorway, and I believe this is DK. I think it said somewhere. Oh, it might be worsted. It says US size 6 to 8. I figured this out. It's the Rios, Malabrigo Rios. So if you know whether that's DK or worsted, let me know. I swear it said maybe worsted. It might be a light worsted. Just if you know, let me know in the comment section below. And I think it said somewhere pure superwash merino. So I'm really excited to get to try Malabrigo out. I have not tried their yarn before, and so I'm really excited to see how their yarn works up. And again, it's in a color that I like very much. I tend to like blues and maroons and dark greens. So it tends to be what I lean towards. Is blues and grays and greens and then maroon. And then the next colorway that she sent me is from Yarnable. So Sarah gets the Yarnable box, and I have never tried it, but she said that she didn't like two of the colorways, so she included them, excuse me, she included them in the box. So Sarah gets the Hypnotic Yarns Yarnable box, and she said that she didn't particularly like two of the colorways, I believe was her reasoning. So she included the yarn and then also the goodies that went along with them. So I'm very excited to get to try these. I have not used the Yarnable box before, but feeling these yarns, it's very soft. It's an 85-15, and it's got a very high twist for an 85-15, I think. Like, it looks like it's got a pretty high twist. I don't know if you can see, if it'll focus on that instead of on me. So you can kind of see there it's kind of got like a pretty high twist on it. And so I'm very excited to get to use these. Especially these because they're sock yarn, but I really enjoy the colors as well. And this will probably end up being like possibly a baby knit or something. This is very soft. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you could use this for babies because it's a very soft yarn or sock yarn. So this is in the pumpkin patch colorway. I believe this was either the October or the November colorway for the Yarnable box for 2021 last year. Just point with the yarn last year. And then the second colorway, which is the reason why I kind of joined the Cal in the first place, maybe, was this colorway. And I believe this was the July Yarnable colorway. And the thing is that I think everybody liked it so much that nobody wanted to destash it because, believe me, I tried looking for it and I couldn't find it. But I loved the colorway because my birthday is actually in July. And so I saw it and I was like, ooh, shoot. Like, it's the colors that I like. And it was my birthday month 1, too. So that's awesome. So this is the Summer Vibes Yarnable colorway. And I like it so much. Like, it's got so many different ranges. It looks like a pool to me. Like the different tones of blue that you see like on the bottom of a pool with all those weird water shapes that you get. So yeah, I'm really excited to knit this up because I've seen it knit up and I like it even more knit up than in this form. And so I haven't really decided what I want to make with it yet. Probably socks for me. Maybe I could get 2 pairs of socks for me out of this. That'd be great. Great, I am in such a weird mood. So anyways, this is also an 8515 and this is in the Summer Vibes colorway. Colorway. Turn German on you. Colorway. And so yeah, this is probably the reason why I knit so many socks in the colorway. Sorry, Sarah. Or in the cowl, not in the colorway. And so yeah, I'm very excited about this, as you can tell. That I get a little weird. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be weird. And then finally, also in Happy Mail, but not from Sarah. And again, Sarah, if you're watching this, thank you so much. I had so much fun opening your box and getting to look through all the goodies and stuff that you sent. And I'm excited to get to try everything. And again, I will be sending my few group of people, even though some of them is probably from your podcast anyways. I was mentioned in 2 podcasts this week, and it was just kind of insane because I pretty much can tell if somebody mentions my podcast because I get like 10 to 20 subscribers in that time period, and it just kind of shoots up, and I'm like, oh, somebody must have mentioned me. So now I got to figure out who it is. So thank you, Sarah, for mentioning my podcast and for sending me such a fun box to open. That was a lot of fun. And so, yeah, this is another thing that I won. And this is from Marina. I hope I'm saying your name right. And she's in New Zealand. And this was a prize that I won several months ago. But unfortunately, she wasn't able to get it to me very easily because they're locked down pretty hard in New Zealand. Or at least they were. I don't know if they still are, to be honest. So anyways, she was very nice. And she sent this to her sister so that she could send it to me. And so this is worsted weight. Now I'm doubting myself on my weights of yarn. But I'm pretty sure 10 ply is worsted weight. And hers is 100% New Zealand merino wool. And this is in the Sweet Memories colorway. The dogs are not cooperating today. If you can hear them barking, I'm sorry. So yeah, she is Strawberry Patches. She owns her own hand dyeing business. And I'm super excited to get to use this. I think they will be mittens because it's so chunky. I think I may use what are they called? The ones that did the tin can knits. I was going to say tiny knits or something. Tin can knits. Perfect. Their mitten pattern that everybody uses. I always forget what it's called. So yeah, if you want to look her up, that is her shop. And I'm going to try and flip the camera, but for me, it's backwards. So that is her website, and you can follow her on these different places. But yeah, she isn't currently podcasting right now because she just had their second child, I believe. And so she won't be podcasting for a little bit, I think. Yeah, I was very excited to see, again, getting blues and greens instead of, like, I'm not a very pink person, so it always kind of makes me nervous when people are like, oh, I'm just going to pick a colorway to send to you, and I'm kind of like, well, I'm not really into, like, stuff. So I've gotten very lucky, and honestly, if I got a pink or purple or whatever, I would probably knit it for one of the family members that I have that love pinks and purples, and they would love it. So I'm not knocking people who would send me pinks and purples. I'm just saying, it makes me happy to get blues and greens and maroons, because that's stuff I can knit for me. And because I'm going to be walking a lot, it's kind of nice to have hand knits, and I've been using them a lot in this cold weather. So yeah, those are all of the things that were gifted to me. And I do have one acquisition besides the big pile of yarn I just showed you, chunky yarn for my blanket that I'm working on. And that is for a sweater. I'm hoping. We'll see how this goes. So I've wanted to knit a colorwork sweater for a while. And so I've heard a lot about Jennifer Steinguess, and I've seen all of her patterns, and I love her design style, and I love the way that she does color work. Usually it's fairly simple, pretty, bold, and kind of graphic. So I'm very excited to get to try. And so I got her Nordic Nights colorway pattern, her Nordic Nights pattern, and I'm going to be knitting that in the Cozy Quiet colorway for the main. I got 2 skeins of it, so hopefully it's enough, because that's all they had. But I really liked this colorway, and I decided that I look pretty good with dark colors. And so I'm excited to get to try doing this. And they're very floppy, but I'm excited to get to try knitting this. It won't probably be for a while. I'll probably start it like spring break or something. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm excited to get to try this. So I have 2 skeins of Cozy Quiet, and then Naked for the colorway, and for color work. I say color work when I want colorway, and colorway when I want color work. Did I say that right? Colorway when I want color work, and color work when I want colorway. It's backwards. What is wrong with me? So anyways, this is for the color work, and then this is for the main color of the sweater. And so I'm super excited to get to try this and knit my first colorwork sweater. My first colorwork item was actually a hat, and it was probably one of the first items I knit, if not the first actual project that I got a product from. Good Lord. So yeah, that is pretty much it, I think, for acquisitions and finished objects and whips. It's a lot. It's a lot this week. Kind of tired. And so, yeah. Thank you guys so very much for watching. Again, if you could let me know if Desert Vista lets you do the same color for multiple months, that'd be great. Because then that would mean that I could participate in 6 months instead of 3 months and not have to buy more yarn, because that's not really something I want to do right now, or I'm in the place to do. So, yeah. Also, if you have any pattern suggestions for any of the yarn that I got or that I showed you today, that would be great. I'm always open to suggestions. Also, if you have suggestions for podcasts, that'd be awesome too. I always welcome supporting other podcasters and other even hand-dyed yarn businesses. Alrighty. So I think that's it, and I think I'm going to stop before I hurt myself. So, yeah. Thank you guys so very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.